What's up, my Madden Rebuild Warriors? My name is David, and today we are talking about my top 5 playbooks to rebuild your next franchise in Madden 25. But first, let's talk about some playbooks that didn't make the top 5, but I think you can still use. So the thing to know about Madden 25 compared to other Maddens is that there's a lot more playbooks that I think are usable in your rebuild, especially if you want to be more sim and use the offenses that the teams are already provided. But, sometimes you don't want to, and you just want to go balls to the wall and get the best offense out there, and that's what we're going to go over here in a minute. But the one thing I noticed is that there's tiers here, and I would call this tier the winning playbook tier, and it brings more playbooks into play. It's not now necessarily these playbooks aren't about numbers and stats, especially like building players, but you can win. And I've seen if you put together a good team, these playbooks are you're gonna win with them. You just don't need one or two playbooks like past Maddens where you had to have the Cowboys, you had to have the Chiefs, you had to have the Raiders or the Falcons or whatever, the secret sauce was for having the best playbook. These playbooks I'm going to tell you are viable. So let's get into it. So 2 books I recommend using for offense are the Broncos and the Buccaneers. These are very good playbooks. You'll put up some stats, but they're more balance based. But you can definitely win with these playbooks if you put together a good team. Even if before you put together a team, like overall. But these playbooks are very usable. You're not going to have the top offenses in the world, but you're going to be able to win. And next we have the 49ers, the Dolphins, and the Giants. Now, the 49ers has potential for big stat categories, top 5 in offense overall or rushing. But you have some big numbers you'll put up by running backs or wide receiver. You can throw for almost 40 touchdowns. But the 49ers can definitely win with it. Then the Giants, big RB rushing numbers. And like I said, it leads to winning, making the playoffs or winning. And the Dolphins is just, you're going to have pretty solid stats, pretty balanced, but you can have a winning record. You're not going to sink to the bottom, regardless of the overall of your team. Because sometimes, in past Maddens, I've said this before, you put together a good team and they just suck and they're not consistent. But these playbooks are consistent with winning, just not going to stat stuff, numbers, and build players in a ridiculous way. But they do win, and they need to be paid attention to. All right, next up we have the Saints, Rams, Raiders, and Steelers, Panthers. All these on this list, great. Saints, no, you can have a top 5 offense. Rams, top 5 offense. Raiders, top 5 offense. Balance, all winning playbooks. These would pretty much round out the list. And I would say if you don't hear a playbook mentioned in this video, do not use it. It's probably not a winning playbook offensively. Now, their defenses might be good, which is a key thing. Because sometimes you see these teams rise up randomly through your rebuilds, right? And it's really not if their playbook wasn't mentioned offensively, it probably wasn't their playbook on offense side that got them a winning record into the playoffs. It was probably their defense, which means their defense is pretty good. Some teams just have good offense and good defense. Sometimes offenses lead to teams having really good defenses. Who was it? One of these teams' playbooks, just they had number 1 defenses, because their playbook was ball control and it kept down the yardage on the defensive side and led to winning. Panthers playbook, let me talk about this real quick. run balance, your running back can put up some big numbers, especially with touchdowns. So I recommend all these playbooks again: Steelers, Saints, Rams, Raiders, Panthers, Giants, 49ers, Dolphins, Commanders, Buccaneers, and Broncos. All winning playbooks that you can use in your rebuild. You just don't have to use the best. You can still put together good teams. It comes down to what defensive playbook you're using, how are you training. There's little secret sauces in there to help you rise to glory and win championships. But you can definitely win your division, make the playoffs, and kick out wins in the postseason with these playbooks I just mentioned. You don't need the top playbooks. Can't say that enough. But you might not build players like you want to, so we're gonna need to go to the next 2 tiers probably to do that. So let's get into it. All right, so this next tier I would call the honorable mention tier. These playbooks are really good, but just didn't make the list. First, we have the Ravens. I mean, if you have a QB like Lamar Jackson, you want to use this playbook. Big numbers, rushing, passing, especially passing touchdowns. Now, you're only going to throw for like 3,100 yards, but your quarterback's fast. He's going to run for 800, 900 yards. Lead the league and, potentially in passing touchdowns and rushing touchdowns. So the Ravens is a great playbook. I think it could have been in the top 5, but I think there's a playbook that's very similar in the top 5 that kind of overrides it. But the Ravens is probably right outside of the top 5, if not, 5B. Next, we have the Bills. The Bills is a top 5 offense. The records may vary, but you're pretty much going to win consistently with this team. But having a top 5 offense is on your list. You're almost guaranteed like 3,900 to 4,100 passing yards. Decent numbers from your running back, but you're going to have a top 5 yardage-wise offense and potential to have one of the top 5 scoring offense. It's a winning playbook, and you're consistently in the top 5 in offense. So consider the Buffalo Bills as one of your playbooks. And the next here we have the Vikings. Vikings, top 5 pass offense. You have the potential to put up 4,500 yards passing in a season, which is awesome. And you're going to win. If it was more consistent with putting up big passing numbers for a quarterback, it'd probably be in the top 5, but you'll have some down seasons. It all depends on how you train, I think. If you're training for medium or deep passing, that might help it get to 4,500 yards passing a season, but it's a great playbook, and I recommend it. And then here we have the Jets? It is the Jets. Jets is another playbook that is not consistent with its numbers to the point where it should be in the top 5. But you have potential for big seasons for number 1 offense. You're going to have big seasons. Your wide receiver 1 is probably going to have a humongous seasons. He's probably going to be up there, competing for catches and yards. But definitely, it's not 100% where you're in the top 5 or number 1 offense, but it shows signs that you train right and put the right team together. You're going to have a number 1 offense. And now what we all been waiting for, my top 5 offenses to rebuild your teams in Madden 25. Let's get into it. At number 5, we have the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's the surprise to probably nobody who's played Madden 25 the last couple of years. Andy Reid always has a top offense in Madden rebuilds, and it's definitely pass balance based. Sometimes that might hurt your record a little bit because you're throwing a lot. Your QB's throwing a lot, but you definitely have big potential for huge passing numbers and getting your offense to number 1 in the league. Definitely top 5. So as we all have been accustomed to using the Kansas City Chiefs, that is number 5. Number 4, this was in our top 3 last year. The Colts. The Colts, I put them over the Ravens here, and the Colts definitely you throw a lot more, but you definitely need a good running mobile quarterback. He's going to put up around 600, 700 yards rushing. You're going to lead the league in rushing, yards, and touchdowns. So the the Colts is our number 3 for sure. Great offense. Heavy QB and RB running numbers, and I think it's better than the Ravens. Then number 3, which was our number 1 last year, but still right up there, even though they have a new head coach, new offensive coordinators. The Chargers, they have potential to give the Cowboys playbook a run for their money. And, they're going to do it with big numbers. They could be number 2, but I put them at number 3 because more than likely it's your running back that's going to have the big numbers. That RB1 is going to have 15 to 20 touchdowns on a good year, and you can definitely put up some big wins and get some good numbers here. And then in number 2, could have been number 3, you have the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals, only playbook to have any chance of consistently matching the Cowboys numbers. Wide receiver 1 and 2, they will have massive numbers. You're talking 1,100 yards a season for both wide receiver 1 and 2, and double-digit touchdowns. I've seen wide receiver 1s have 15, 20 touchdowns. So the Chargers and the Bengals consistently in the playoffs, consistently having a top 5 offense, consistently winning Super Bowls and playoff games, and getting players, dev upgrades for making Pro Bowls and have MVP seasons. And that brings us to our last playbook. We've covered it in our first video we ever released for Madden 25. Y'all should know it by now. The Cowboys, much to the chagrin of most people who don't like the Cowboys and have to deal with them being good in every Madden rebuild, the Cowboys offense is just consistently good. It's always throwing for over 4,000 yards. More likely you're throwing for 43 to 4,400 yards a season. And, I've seen it get as high as almost 48, 4,900 yards passing. The Bengals has some potential to that. The Chiefs has some potential to that. But the Cowboys, the main reason why they're here is because your running back, your quarterback, your wide receivers, they all put up numbers. And not only are you winning consistently, but the numbers are consistent. And that leads to building players while winning. And that's what you want to do. So it's really hard to compete with the Cowboys playbook. It just is what it is. People hate it. Especially if you follow C4. He rages over it. I thought they were going to change it. But this year, after all the rage, he's had. And I think he's an influencer for them and stuff like that. So the Cowboys aren't going to do that. They are front runners. Especially at home, and they put up big numbers. So your wide receiver 1 for sure is going to have huge numbers. CeeDee Lamb's like always the top wide receiver in rebuilds, and it's due in part because he's in the best offense. Dak's always MVP candidate. Even your running backs can have big touchdown numbers. So I'm sorry, it is what it is. That's what Madden does, man. They love their Cowboys, and rightfully so. They had some really big numbers last year. But you don't have to use it. Like I said, we went over plenty of other playbooks that you can use to help your rebuild in Madden 25. You can stay sim. You can keep your offenses that are with the coach that you're rebuilding with. And if your offense wasn't mentioned, you're just gonna have to build a really good defense, and that team probably has a really good defensive playbook. Anyway, that's the video. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Please let me know what your favorite offense to rebuild in Madden 25 is. What's your favorite team? Let me know. Like and subscribe. We'll see you next time. We're going to break down the best 4-3 defenses in one video and then the best 3-4 defenses in a video. I will mention, I think the 3-4 defenses are better for your rebuild, and there's a lot more of them in the league this year. But really, the way defenses work, every team kind of runs a hybrid where even if you're running a 3-4, You have your sub rushers that can or cannot be DNs or outside linebackers, and they all have 4-man fronts. So in certain formations. But that's it. All right, answer those questions for me. Don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to hit that subscription button. Subscribe. And let's rebuild some freaking dynasties together. All right. That's it. Later, guys.